Okay, for this video, what we're going to look at is a real easy way to stretch those adductors on the inside of those thighs and then just kind of convert that or switch right into a little hip flexor stretch. And then we'll come back and maybe add some thoracic rotation in there. But it's just a good little way to hit that hip complex area, maybe some areas that we don't stretch, or a different way to stretch or work on that mobility kind of through a little flow. Really simple. You're just going to line up in the old windmill type of action that you always kind of stretch those adductors in. You don't have to go real deep into it, because if you go too deep, then you won't be able to flow right into this little hip flexor stretch. So from here, all you're going to do is get that adductor stretch, and then I'm just going to rotate to one side, dropping right into the hip flexor, so I'm nice and wide. Again, not arching the back on the hip flexor, I've just dropped down, and we're just going to tighten the glute on that knee, the down side, the side that the knee is on, that's on the floor. So I'm tightening that glute, really getting a good stretch here in that hip flexor in the front, and then just going to rotate right back into that adductor. So I'm staying in that adductor, then going to a nice wide, different maybe setup of that hip flexor, right down into it. So there's not a lot of movement, just some rotation. Again, tightening that glute, working on a good stretch in that hip flexor, and then I'm going to come back. So I'm just right back into it. So as you do that, if you want to progress to adding in maybe an overstretch, grab a kettlebell, grab a dumbbell. It doesn't take much. So again, I'm down into that stretch. I'm holding some weight here, and then I'm just going to go right into that rotation. Right there, staying nice and tall, tightening that glute, and then rotating right back into that nice adductor, and then right back down into that hip flexor. Now, as we do that, you can also add in a little bit more, a deeper adductor stretch, so you don't have to go quite as wide. You can go like a little forward bend, forward fold into that flexion, stand here, and then adding in some rotation while I'm in that adductor stretch. And that will elongate that adductor on that opposite side by adding in that rotation. I'm getting a little bit more stretch on that side. And then I would just come back and then drop right into that hip flexor. Nice and tall, tighten that glute, hip flexor stretch. So again, you can come back, you can add in that rotation here, get a nice adductor stretch, and then coming back down, and then flowing right into hip flexor stretch. So there's a couple variations, a couple ways to do that. You don't have to be so specific with it, just kind of moving through, giving those adductors and that hip flexor a little bit different stimulus, a little bit different stretch that you normally do, instead of just holding a little static stretch, just kind of moving through some movement there with mobility. So check that out. As always, those videos will stay here on Facebook, over on YouTube. They're always on the YouTube channel. Plethora of videos there. Check those out and check back. We'll add some more.